Hey guys, what's going on? This is John from Friends with Your Benefits. The term healthcare price transparency can mean many things to many different people. For me personally, it means that I know the price of the healthcare services that I'm going to receive before I actually receive them, and this compares to the current state where I often see a healthcare provider, and then 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 months down the road, I actually receive a bill in the mail, and I'm struggling to remember what services I actually received and why. Now, there are some things that employers can do to help employees obtain healthcare prices when they need it. And joining us today to learn more about that, we have Luke Salmen, an executive from Healthcare Bluebook. Hey Luke, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Luke, before we get started, can you tell our audience one, maybe two fun facts about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I live down here now in Nashville. Been down here for about 14 years, and so I'm pretty simple guy. I like my Cleveland sports teams, my Ohio State sports teams. I've gotten into a pretty serious skincare regimen. So my wife's in the skincare industry. She's a phenomenal injector. So she does Botox, fillers, all that fun stuff. And so I have quite the lineup next to my toothpaste and toothbrush of skincare products I've been using for the past 5 years. So it's probably something you wouldn't necessarily expect.
Oh, very interesting. And I'm assuming most of those products are not HSA, FSA eligible. They're totally cosmetic, right?
Exactly. Her entire practice is actually, it's a great point.
Definitely huge market for that. So let's dive right into it, Luke, right? So from your perspective, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges or problems as it relates to healthcare and health insurance?
Yeah, it's a huge question, and we can go a lot of different ways with that. The way that we look at it a lot of times, within Blue Book is, when you need to shop for healthcare, when you're in that time of need, it's already stressful. So before we even start, something's wrong. Typically, someone doesn't feel well, whether that's yourself, someone in your family. So before we even start to get into the process and unpack everything else, we already have that level of stress over us. And then you start to get into, well, what's my network? I know we changed. Did we change dental? Did we change everything? Which providers are network? Which providers are high quality? So it's just a very difficult space to navigate. A lot of times we'll compare it to other industries, whether that's, we use the gas example a lot. Hey, if you pull up to an intersection, you see 3 gas stations, you know what you're getting at every gas station, you know what price you're getting at every gas station. And healthcare is just much more complex than that. And it's really difficult to navigate, even for those of us in the space. I like to think we're fairly well versed in comparison to others. And there's still times I got my teeth cleaned a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, we switched this, didn't we? And had to go through, pull up my card, and we didn't actually. We switched medical, didn't switch dental. So it's just difficult for members to navigate. And so I think that's one of the biggest issues within healthcare and the health insurance space right now, is the ability to get to the right places at the right time for what you need to have done.
Sure, and that's certainly fair. And yeah, if your employer decides to change medical carriers, that's another wrinkle too, right? Like, hey, like, is my provider still a
Absolutely.
network? How do I know I'm seeing the right provider at the right time? So why don't you talk to me a little bit about what Healthcare Bluebook actually does and how they help employers and employees alike?
Awesome. Yeah. So Healthcare Bluebook, we help members to shop for healthcare at a really high level. So we have a website, we have an app. We also have a team here in Nashville you can call into. And regardless of what it is that you're shopping for, we try and help get members to the right spot. So again, just starting with a simple example. Hey, my foot hurts. I need to get this thing checked out. I rolled it. I don't know if is it broken? Is it sprained? What is it? I need to go get an X-ray and MRI. So Bluebook will help members get to the right spot within their network. So we're taking in that data on the front end. So when a member goes in and types in ankle X-ray, we are showing them all of the results in their network of facilities that perform ankle X-rays. And we'll also show them the pricing. And for more complex procedures, say they need an ankle surgery, a shoulder replacement, spinal fusion, we'll also show the quality alongside the cost. Everything's outcomes based. Just as we mentioned earlier, it's tough to navigate. Typically, when you need to see a surgeon for some type of procedure, most people ask a buddy, ask someone that's been in the space, lived in the area for a long time. Hey, who do you know that does surgeries? Unlike in other spaces where we have data to look up to see who's actually high or low quality. So Bluebook helps to bring that data piece, provide that to the members so they can go on the website, pull up the app, and shop and find the right place within their network for the care that they need.
Sure. So, Luke, one common thing that I hear in the marketplace talking among many of my clients is, why can't my insurance companies do this for me? Like, what do I need Healthcare Bluebook for?
Yeah, great question. It's probably the main question I get, as you're very familiar with. So there's a couple big differences. I think one of the first ones is just a lot of the groups that we work with do appreciate that Bluebook is just a neutral third party. We have no skin in the game. We have no reason to guide members to one facility versus another. We're just looking after the patient. We want the patient to get the best experience possible, give themselves the best chance at having a high quality result with a high quality physician at a high quality facility. So I think that does resonate really well. The second piece I would say is, this is what we do. We breathe cost and quality. We own the largest quality database in the United States through an acquisition we made a couple of years back of Quantros. And so we can really dive in there and get into, hey, at a procedural level, how does this orthopedic surgeon rate? How do their outcomes look at hips versus knees? The second component to both of those pieces, the cost and quality data, and providing that to the members, is, as a neutral third party, we will happily show you the facilities you should not go to. We will happily show you the physicians you want to avoid for that procedure. And again, just with the relationships the carriers have, that's probably not in their best interest, where they may highlight centers of excellence or high performing physicians, which is great. All the data that we can provide to members, the better. But for us, we can get down and say, hey, you really want to avoid this facility for a back surgery. They're having a lot of complications, a lot of readmittance with that procedure. So let's guide you to a different facility. So I think those are the real main differences. Of course, there's a lot we do around incentives to drive members to use our website. That's a big piece of what we do. So we say, hey, if you go to a high quality, reasonably priced facility for this procedure, we'll actually give that member a check in the mail for being a good consumer of healthcare. So that really helps us to drive folks to our site.
And that's certainly a great segue, right? So, I've seen many great consumerism tools out there, but getting people to actually use this and say, hey, I should use, let's say, the Healthcare Blue Book as opposed to what my insurance company is offering me. Do you find that the incentives actually work? And if so, like, what type of incentives are we talking about? Talking about, like, I don't know, $20 gift cards. What do you find is like the optimal incentive level?
Yeah, so we find that people like cash, which probably isn't going to shock you or anyone listening, but so we'll just send cash. We have cash incentives that we'll send directly to the member based off a set of rewardable procedures. It's over 400 procedures, so really most procedures that are shoppable we do incentivize for, and it ranges. It's a pretty large range from $25, $50, $100 for some smaller. We talked about an X-ray earlier. If you just need an X-ray, the range of that, not as dramatic. So we say, hey, you need the X-ray anyways, you might as well go to a green facility. We'll give you a $25 check. An MRI, a little bit more variance. In most markets, depending on the area that you're going to get an MRI on, $300 to about $3,000, which is crazy for starters. I'll start there. That's crazy. And that's in most networks and most markets. So we'll say, hey, if you go to that $300, $400 facility to get the MRI, it's going to be the same as a $3,000 MRI. On top of that, we'll give you a $100 check for going to a green facility, what Bluebook would consider a green facility, for getting that procedure done. And then again, when we get into the more complex procedures, we don't just incentivize for getting a low-cost hip replacement, a low-cost back surgery. We focus first and foremost on quality. But because of the lack of correlation between cost and quality in healthcare, in most markets, you do have the opportunity to find a high-quality facility that's also at a reasonable price. And then third, Bluebook layers in the physician component to say, hey, this is a great facility to get that done at. Let's also make sure you get a physician that specializes in that procedure. Because again, I think the average consumer has no idea if an orthopedic surgeon prefers to do hip surgeries versus knee surgeries. We don't have access to that information. So providing that to the member, allowing them to make a better decision. And the knee replacements, hip replacements, back surgeries, those rewards go up to $1,500. So they are significant to say, hey, for going to a high quality, reasonably priced facility, which is great in the first place. On top of that, you'll get a $1,500 check. So that we do see that helps to move the needle and get members to the site. Again, people like cash. I'd go a lot of places for $1,500.
Cash is king, absolutely, as you said before. So yeah, it's certainly that would help move the needle on some folks. And I'll be curious to see how this plays out in the future. I know we've done some earlier videos on lifestyle spending accounts. If you guys want additional information, feel free to click the link on the video right here. But it would be curious to see if an employer in the future may say, hey, instead of putting money on, let's say, a Visa gift card or cutting a check, perhaps that money can be redirected to a lifestyle spending account. So maybe that's the way of the future, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Some we experiment with a little bit ourselves. We can done that for a couple of our clients. We actually put it directly into one of those. And then additionally,
Nice.
and just kind of the back end of your initial question, the second piece, I think rewards gets them there. I think the quality is really what keeps members coming back. Once they realize they have access to that, I mean, John, you're in the space, you're probably familiar with this, but the amount of, whether it's carriers, consultants, other, vendors I work with, hey man, this isn't going to help you close a deal or anything along those lines, but I need you to look up something for me. And I do that every single week for the past 5 years that I've been here, because, I can't fathom myself or my wife needing a major surgery and not looking up where we're going to have that done. That would blows my mind at this point. Haven't been here for a while, but most people don't have access to that information. So I think the rewards get them there, and then the quality keeps them coming back because they want to check, make sure they're getting high quality care.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, just as a quick aside, personal basis. So my daughter Lily, she had a tonsillectomy a few months ago. Very routine. Everything went well, but her tonsils were massive and it was actually causing her some speech issues. So we had to get it done. And it was almost like pulling teeth. I'm in a high deductible plan. I kind of wanted to know, like, what is my liability going to be? Right. And like to get the actual price, like you'd figure in this day and age, it would be relatively straightforward. It took a lot of phone calls and legwork, just to be candid with you. So it
Yeah,
sounds like you guys help reduce the amount of legwork that's required, right?
absolutely. Yeah. And there's a lot going on with that. We don't want to put everyone to sleep talking about transparency regulations, no surprises, transparency and coverage, but there's a lot of work being done to help get it so that when you do want to see pricing, it's more readily available. But currently, as it stands, it's pretty tough to find out the cost of a procedure. And so we're trying to help members with that, show them some cost, and again, incent them for making a good decision.
So, Luke, one thing you mentioned before was quality. So, how do you actually define what a quality provider is? I mean, you're looking at claims, or how do you guys actually determine if a provider out there is high quality or low quality?
Yeah, perfect. So we have a couple data sources that we utilize. We use the CMS standard analytic file. So all facilities across the country are required to report their outcomes to CMS. So independently audited, no self-reported data. That's really important to us. Quantra, as I referenced earlier, we acquired them as well, who really allows us to get into more detail. But everything that we do at Healthcare Bluebook is outcomes based. So we are looking at unexpected readmissions related to that procedure within 30 days, complications, safety events, mortalities. So again, strictly outcomes based, which we think is very important. We then take that data internally and we do two things. We both risk adjust and volume adjust. The risk adjusting is an important piece because you'll get that question a lot. Well, hey, Johns Hopkins, Cleveland Clinic, Stanford, they're dealing with some really complex cases. People are flying across the country to see them. And so we do risk adjust by looking at comorbidity as members enter the facility. An extremely healthy patient, way less likely to have one of those unfortunate outcomes. So we factor that in. And then last, we do volume adjust as well. But we do volume adjust differently than some folks may, where we don't just say, hey, if you've done a really high volume of a procedure, therefore you are good at that procedure. We actually look at the outcomes, then use the volume to solidify that. So just as a quick example, if we see someone does a high volume of knee replacements and they continue to have readmittance and complication issues, we're actually more confident that's not where you want to go for a total knee replacement. So kind of a lot of data and a lot of analysis goes into it, but we want, folks feeling really confident when we display that in our site. We use green, yellow, red, kind of that stoplight approach. When we display something as green or high quality, we want you to know that that's based off of outcomes, and there's a lot of data and analytics behind that. Not just us saying, hey, you know what, we think they're pretty good. There's some real sound data supporting that.
Fair enough. So let's talk one more thing about price, right? So does the price follows the members and their plan design, right? So for my example, I'm in the high deductible plan. So when I meet my deductible, when I look at prices on Healthcare Bluebook, is there any recognition that, hey, John, you've met your deductible, now you're paying, making up 30% of the overall cost?
Yeah, we can build that in. Essentially, the more data that we can have access to, we can put that all within the site. So Sometimes, we're unable to get that data more on the other side of things. But as long as they provide us with the data, we can make it specific to that member. So it's specific to their plan, their network. When they go in, everything is specific to them. Really important piece of what we do. And it's also, improvement where, we've come a long way over the last, 13 years or so, last 5 years that I've been here, where things have gotten a lot more specific to the employer and to the employee, which really helps. If members get to our site, they're confused, they're not able to use it, it's not effective, then they don't come back like we were talking about. Right. So we want to provide them with the data that's going to be most applicable to their situation, and making it specific is an important piece of that.
Spent a lot of time talking about medical. Are there any other lines of coverage that you do? Do you have anything in the pharmacy space, perhaps?
Yes, absolutely. So we've been in the pharmacy space for about 18 months now, coming up on probably 24 months. I feel like I've been saying 18 months for a few months now, but it's been really exciting. So we added in the pharmacy component through a partnership with Scripta, who's been in the space for a long time. And really, they view pharmacy similar to how we view medical. Hey, we don't need to make a dramatic change. We don't need to blow up your entire plan, those in your network. We just want to highlight the best opportunity of savings and quality for you. So it's been a really nice tie-in, as you're going to be well aware in your role, maybe even more so than mine. When I'm talking about what we can do on the medical for the past 5 years, a lot of times the response is, awesome. Well, we're getting killed on our pharmacy claims. So how do you help us there? And until the past couple of years, I said, hey, we can link out to someone else. We're happy to support that. But it's really nice having the two tied in on one platform, so members can go in, they can shop for an EMRI. They can also see right there on the website, again, specific to them, hey, here's the 3 drugs that you're currently taking. And then we can recommend switches based off of both, again, cost and quality. We don't recommend members ever just switch to a cheaper drug. But as you know, in a lot of scenarios, you can take really the exact same drug, whether that's, a different brand, a brand to generic to generic in a lot of cases, at a more reasonable price, and members just aren't aware of that. And so we'll highlight that for them, and again, incentivize them. Hey, and if you make this switch, really switching to the same drug, we'll give you a $50 check. So tying the two in on one platform has been awesome. It also has helped our medical traction. How often does someone need to shop for a surgery or an image versus how often does someone get a prescription? So brings folks to the site a lot more regularly. We've seen our medical traction grow as well. And there's some cool things you can do having access to both data sets, medical and pharmacy. Of course, specialty pharmacy medications is a really hot topic, very expensive, and also very tough to move. We don't say, hey, if you get Healthcare Bluebook and you had the RX component, we're going to move all your specialty meds. But when you're looking at the site of care for infusions on a lot of these medications, we could say, hey, we can simplify this for you. In some cases, you can even stay in your home, and we can reduce the cost of that infusion by $6,000 while we don't move the medication. That's a huge area for us to, look to capture on. So adding the RX piece in has been awesome. It's tied in really seamlessly.
Yeah, and absolutely. And just continues to wow me how many arbitrage opportunities there are in healthcare. And, going back to your comment on infusions, literally, we will see that an infusion for someone, let's say they're able to get the infusion done in their home or the office setting, it will cost sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars less as opposed to getting it in the outpatient hospital facility, which is just crazy. Blows my mind.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. Spent a lot of my time on the medical side. Pharmacy was new to me. And so at first I was pretty overwhelmed. Still am a little bit, but it's wild to see some of the things that are happening. The more you get into it, the more shocked I've been, to be honest. But it's great that we have an opportunity to help bring that to members and show them, hey, you have other options, and let's take advantage of that.
Definitely. So Luke, let's say there's someone out there and perhaps they want to connect with you or want to learn a little bit more about Healthcare Bluebook. Where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to healthcarebluebook.com. You can go on the site. It talks about a lot of things that we covered today. Talk about the medical, talk about the pharmacy. We'll even have some little videos on there that kind of walk you through what that looks like, what the site looks like, how members can interact. You can also reach me at Salmen@healthcarebluebook.com, L as in Luke. So feel free to shoot me a note there. Also on LinkedIn as Luke Salmen. Headshot probably looks something like this. So it's a few years old, but should be close enough.
Absolutely. Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate the overall overview as it relates to Healthcare Bluebook and your perspective on healthcare price transparency.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, John.
Absolutely. And for our viewers out there, we want to hear from you guys. What's been your experience with accessing the healthcare system and finding out what healthcare is going to cost before you purchase it? Comment